Welcome back to our third episode of Tena Talk here at the FOA. And today's a little sad. It's good, but it's still sad. It's good. It's so many emotions because it is actually the last episode of Tena Talk here at the FOA. And we're going through a bit of a transition period. My time has come for my acting role here at the Field Operations Academy. And I certainly want to start by saying it's been such an honor and a pleasure to come down and serve in this dynamic role and such a critical role as we get to work with all of the folks who are joining the agency and really being that example of what the future looks like for us. And for me, it's been again, a pleasure working with everyone here. And I can tell you that it is bittersweet, but I know that the FOA is going to be in excellent hands. And today I am actually joined by Port Director Henry DeBlock, who is going to be coming in as the acting executive director. Ladies and gentlemen, Henry DeBlock. That's my corny, they add chairs in. So I got to pretend like there's going to be chairs there.
I like it. Well, first of all, pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be on this podcast. It's my first podcast ever. So.
Oh, we're breaking all the first here. Write that down, guys.
So nerves aside, absolutely honored to be taking over. Big shoes to fill, and I'm just excited to get started.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. And I think one of the things that you're going to realize, which you know, because you've served as a mentor many times here at the Academy, such a passion for what we do. Certainly with the staff that we have here, cultivating the front line, cultivating the future, and seeing the quality of individuals who are joining the organization. Being able to do that on a larger scale is going to be absolutely incredible. But this is Tena Talk, so you know that there are going to be questions that I'm going to be asking you. And I'm sure that our staff is going to be super excited to get to know you as the incoming XD. So we're going to start from the beginning. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what personally made you want to join law enforcement.
All right, a little bit about myself. First off, Henry DeBlock, born and raised in New Jersey.
Go Jersey.
So I'm a Mets fan.
My condolences. My condolences. I'm a Yankee fan.
Father of three, married for almost 20 years now. So a family person. With regard to the question, a little bit about me and a little bit about why I decided to go into law enforcement. I don't really know the answer to that. I know that I went to college at John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York, New York.
It's a great school.
And I had an idea I was going to be in law enforcement or pre-law type situation. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to law school. But during my senior year, I was on an internship on 9/11, and I was on a surveillance with a detective at the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office and when the first plane struck. And at that time, I don't know how many minutes afterward, but the detective ended up driving to the riverfront, and then, not too long after, the second plane had struck. So that pretty much sealed the deal for me with my desire to be in law enforcement and in particular, federal law enforcement.
Sure.
And I'm so very grateful that I found a home in U.S. Customs and Border Protection. It was Customs Service at the time.
Yeah.
But it was the best decision I ever made. I'm so very grateful. It's been a tremendous opportunity, and I'm just fortunate to have made the choice that I made.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your why and how you got started. And I think it's really incredible. I love asking that question because I think everyone has a different story of what drove them, whether it's to law enforcement or CBP specifically. And I love where people are able to identify this was the nucleus that led me to this. And I also say that that's a North Star that kind of brings us back to those days where it can be tough to do the job. And you remember the purpose of why you're here is a lot larger than what you are as an individual. And it overcomes those little nuances that happens on a day-to-day basis that we know that comes with our responsibilities. For sure. Thank you. So if you can take us back, what was it like for you as a trainee in the FOA? And certainly we've seen that a lot of things have changed, but there are some things that have stayed the same. So what was it like for you?
For me, it was all business.
Mm-hmm.
I was completely driven. I slept, breathed, and ate, FLETC or the academy. So I was, I didn't have a vehicle here, so I was on base pretty much all the time. And I worked out, I studied, and I went to class and I slept. Not the most exciting answer, but I was a quote unquote cyborg when I was here.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I was like I was like one of the rare folks who had like a car in class. So I wound up being like everyone's driver. If someone needed to go to Walmart, that was me. I was like, I'm a lot better than a Walmart driver. Thank you very much. But
I did hitch a couple rides to Walmart. I do.
It got to the point where I was giving out my keys. Of course, I could never tell my parents that other people was driving the car. We left it at that. But it was like, drive yourself to Walmart. But I think, in all seriousness, finding that niche and, involving yourself into everything that the Academy had to offer and really just staying locked in, because a lot of times as I'm out there talking, and as you've seen as well, as you've served in a mentorship capacity, when you're talking to the trainees and you're, speaking about having that mindset, staying locked in, recognizing the importance of why you're here and making sure that you stay focused, you have to create those barriers in order to do so. And so it sounds like that was a lot of what you did while you were here, for sure.
Absolutely. And I can't really pinpoint, the why or how, some of this stuff is just, from sports in high school and parents, but I had my head on straight when I was here, for sure. And one of my goals here is to really kind of zero in, lock in with the students, and really try to get their mindset to prioritize, to clearly understand what's on the line. How amazing the position at the end of the road that waits for them if they just do a few key things consistently, and if they follow a set guideline, that they will have an amazing opportunity for them at the end of the road.
Absolutely. And the trust that the American people have bestowed upon us. That's a big, big thing.
100%.
That's by definition what civil service is. And so always thinking with that in mind, that it's a lot bigger than us as individuals. Again, that bigger picture as to why we do what we do.
I agree, and that is something that you clearly, when you take that first oath, that picture is painted very clearly, and that's one of my favorite aspects of being in our positions.
Correct.
Is to administer those oaths.
So speaking of position and administering the oath, you've had a very rewarding career path, I would say, worked in so many different divisions and locations within the agency. So tell us a little bit about that. And then also tell us about now coming into this leadership role, being the acting executive for the FOA, and what really motivates you to want to be in this position.
Okay, so starting off, I started at Dulles Airport actually in February '03.
Yeah, you started at Dulles. I always thought that you started at Newark, born and bred.
No,
I love Dulles, but I knocked you down just a little bit down on my notches. I'm kidding.
I was there the longest. How about that?
At Dulles?
Newark.
Oh, I was going to say, oh, God. Again, I love Dulles. I really do.
So I started at Dulles. I started off as a customs inspector not too long after the merger, with immigration and agriculture. I became an enforcement officer, so I had a chance to really get into Title VIII, and it kind of became my passion. Worked hard secondary, worked several prosecutions, and just really kind of got to know the ins and outs of Title VIII. From there, I went to headquarters for approximately 3 years. I did everything from honor guard uniform program to that was OFO's national labor representative to NTU.
Yeah.
So then from there I went to Newark eventually. Got to Newark in 2011 and rose up the ranks there, became a branch chief before eventually reporting to Savannah as the area port director, which was an incredibly rewarding position.
Yeah.
And during my time in Savannah, as you know, once you get into these leadership roles, you have to help out the mothership. So I did a couple deployments, did acting port director in Atlanta, and most recently I was the acting deputy executive director in innovation and strategy.
That's awesome. So you guys are getting the real deal in a leader right now coming into the XD role. That's phenomenal. So a little bit about this one, motivations.
Motivation, I'm motivated to motivate. I definitely think with my background, not just with customs, but my athletic background, I really have good insights into the right mindset, a healthy mindset, and really prioritizing things while you're here. There's so much. I remember the feeling when I reported I was 24 years old. You don't know much about life at that age.
Yeah.
Most people.
Even though you think you do.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
thought I had my life all figured out back then. Man, if I could go back and tell my things what I know now.
Same here. I knew everything. But, so just really kind of cementing in the right mindset, priority, focus, and you don't have to be a cyborg to do everything you need to do here to come out operationally ready for the field.
Right.
But there are some basic things that need to get done, and the sooner that happens, the sooner that mindset is cemented in, preferably week one.
Yeah.
The easier and better it's going to be for the trainee.
Yeah.
So, and I also think that my experience is getting in front of things, working in some large and operationally significant field offices. It's shown me the importance of being prepared for pretty much everything. Whether it's down here in the southwest corridor here, southeast, you have threats of hurricanes.
Hurricane Alley.
Just being prepared for all sorts of things that get thrown your way, weather-wise, personnel-wise.
Sure.
So just getting in front as much as I can and working hard. That's another thing that I'd like to, this good old-fashioned work ethic goes a long way.
Right, it sure does. And as you were talking, I thought about, because on our last episode, I interviewed instructor Peter Cole, and I asked him the same question. I asked him, what motivates you? He goes, oh, that's tough. And he said, I just really want to help. And I see some parallels in a lot of what it is that you talked about. I'm motivated to motivate. And certainly in this role, that's the expectation, because we spend so many times out there talking to the trainees, talking to the staff. They want to see, first of all, a care for what it is that they do, an understanding of what the mission is, an understanding of what they're bringing into it, why CVP is so important, the trust that's bestowed upon us, and being able to carry that. But they also want to have a leader that's motivated, and so that it shows them an example of what they can be in the future. And I think that that's definitely something that you have. And so I'm incredibly excited. I'm looking forward to watching from afar and seeing all of the great things that you do while you're here. So I think it's a great transition for you. So any expectations for when you're coming to the FOA?
I would say that, it's going to be the wise owl approach. I'm going to immerse myself into the academy and, quickly get myself caught up to speed as much as I can. And then, focus on doing the basics really well.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with that approach,
right.
No matter where you go. and then once I have a good idea of the inner workings of the academy, then I can kind of get into next level.
Sure.
change management type stuff.
Sure. Sure. And without question, I mean, your background, all of the places that you've worked in, you have a phenomenal track record of being able to think from a strategic level and see what's the immediate needs now and what does the particular situation look like in the future, and being able to channel that the right way. So transitioning, so what would you say your leadership style is like? And I'll preface this by saying, I usually hate this question because people ask me and I have to think, I'm like, I don't know, I'm just myself. So here I am throwing it to you. What's your leadership style?
Well, at our levels, we've had these, fancy leadership classes where you get tested for this. So I'm a fiery red.
I love it.
Anybody that's ever worked with me would probably say, shocker.
I'm a yellow. Again, no shocker.
I could see that. But so I'm intense. I have an intense leadership style. I'm engaged. I'm elbows deep in everything. But at the same token, it's because I like to know what's going on.
Right.
But I will say confidently, although my staff are the real, judges of this. I don't, I'm not a micromanager. I like to know what's going on. I like to be informed. It helps at a leadership role. It really ensures that there's no single points of failure along the way. Just being involved, engaged. You get to know your team. You get to have good foundational relationships with the people you work with.
Absolutely.
You build trust that way. So I'm not an ivory tower type. I like to mix it up, and that describes it. Intense, but caring.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I mean, I think what you described, all of the characteristics that you just described, is a leader that cares, right? Because a leader that cares really has a full understanding of what is happening within their AOR and wanting to know and making sure that we are making informed decisions. And the only way to truly do that is to know exactly what's happening on the deeper levels of the operation. Now, you don't need to know everything to minute details, but have enough to say, okay, perhaps this is the best course of action, or if we need to divert or pivot, dare I use a word that they use in the leadership classes all the time. We're able to do that too. So speaking of pivoting, how do you foresee that this job would differ from being a port director in the field?
Well, the notable difference is obviously the field is the operation.
Yeah.
It's the front line, so to speak.
Yep.
And the position at the academy is a training environment. So with regard to differences, I'd say that's the notable difference. But the way that I'm approaching it is that you treat everything as if it's real life. So there's probably more similarities than differences.
Absolutely.
So it's the big difference.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of quickly mentally get over that and treat everything as realistically as possible to simulate the operational environment as optimally as possible.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you say that, because when I'm out there and I'm talking to the classes and I'm engaging with the trainees, there's this analogy that I use, right? And I usually ask them the question, do you guys bowl? Does everybody bowl? They're like, yeah, we're bowl. I'm like, everybody's a pro with the bumper guards on, right? And they all start laughing. They're like, yeah, it's so easy. I'm like, yeah, I said, being in an academy is sort of like bowling with the bumper guards on, right? You're going to make mistakes. You get a little bit too close to the right. Guess what? Your instructors and managers are going to say, get a little bit over. You get too far on the left, it's going to be the same thing. But we all fare that 2-foot gap in between where the guards stop and you're just hoping that the ball hits those pins. It's like, come on, hit those pins. Don't go into the gutter. Versus real life, you are bowling without those bumper guards on.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to make those mistakes, you want to make them here where you have the staffing, you have the support, you have the coaches, because that's one of the roles that we've also recognize that we do the most of is coaching and mentoring to say, this is the way how we approach this situation. Whether it's from the physical training, law enforcement, the law, everything. This is the way how you approach this. So we're going to coach you, right? So when we're out there bowling, you're going to hold the ball like this. You're going to make sure that you take 2 steps, do the lean back. I'm not a pro by any means. I just like
You sound like you want.
Yeah, I make it look good. Believe me, when I go bowling, I put those bumper guards up. I know my strengths. That ain't one of them. But in all seriousness, you want to make sure that you have all of the tools to do it the right way. We talked a little bit about you coming down and mentoring before, and serving as like that resident keynote speaker if we ever need someone. So first of all, thank you for doing that, because you've helped us tremendously at the FOA. And now coming into that acting XD position and bringing that mentorship, I am curious to know your feedback on, well, this is like a 2-part question. Your feedback on mentoring the front line in general, and then maybe perhaps more growth that you can see for the mentorship program.
Great question. Mentoring in general is a little bit different outside of the academy setting, because you're dealing with folks that are already in the operational environments, and even potentially looking at careers on the management side of the house. So I would say a lot of my mentoring in the field is really geared towards future managers. Those are the individuals that I find are most likely to raise their hand to sit down with the boss, so to speak.
Right.
This environment is unique because you're mentoring a full class of 48.
Yeah.
And they are trainees. They don't have badges or firearms yet. They're still very wet behind the ears. So it took a hot minute for me to get used to talking to folks that are that green.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. But after a session or two, I definitely enjoyed it, and I just kind of stuck to my instincts that it comes down to your focus, things I mentioned before, your discipline, understanding how critical what sits at the end of the yellow brick road, so to speak, is how important. Just focus, keep your eye on the prize, and do those extra things to make sure you're prepared.
Right. I love that. That preparation is key mentality, and knowing that despite how challenging things may appear, or how challenging they truly are, remember the goal at the end. And one of the things that I also love telling them is that the end is not when you graduate. Like, that's not a finite moment. If anything, that's when the reality sets in. Like, here is your badge, here is the gun. Go forth with the trust of the American people, and remember to always honor both of those, and the American trust, and the values that your family has. All of these things. It is an incredible responsibility, and sometimes I feel bad when I say that, because they're all looking at me like, "What did I get myself to?" I'm like, "Yeah, you feel that? It's heavy, ain't it?"
And I will say those conversations I generally save for like the middle portion of it,
right?
Because they are kind of deer in headlights situation.
Of course.
That first week. I will say that I like just keeping it real with them too. Just especially their first PEB or their physical fitness training test. There's sometimes higher percentage than probably should that are failing. Just kind of having real conversations that if you don't put in the work, you're not going to make it.
Absolutely.
You need.
Absolutely.
Life is hard. This training is hard.
Yeah.
Just accept it and get to work.
I love that. I love that. So this will be our last question.
Sure.
Well, two more questions. What advice would you have out there for the newer trainees who either just joined CBP, or certainly we have a lot of individuals who follow us on social media. And, you know, I love asking the question about what advice would you give them? Because a lot of people are looking for a path, they're looking for guidance. And I think it's awesome for them to get different perspectives. So what advice would you have to that pool of people, either new on the job or interested in joining the job?
Well, for folks that are interested in joining the job, it would be very beneficial to, you know, be in a position that you can parlay as work experience on your resume. So education is one avenue for qualifying for the position, and then the other is work experience. So if you're interested in a position with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, you know, take a look at the qualification requirements, become familiar with you know, what you're going to need from an educational work experience background, and then the physical side too, because as we just discussed, there's mandatory physical fitness testing that's required in order to graduate, and some of that work needs to be done before day one.
Absolutely.
For folks that are new and on the job already, I would say you don't have to. I had no idea at 24 years old, 25 years old, 26, my first 3 years, that I would ever be in supervision or management.
Same.
I was actually was the acting union president at Dulles, and that was a role that I served in with zero thought of being a manager.
Yeah.
But I was a hard worker. You know, when I was tasked with something, I got it done. I did the best job I could at it. I met deadlines.
Yeah.
I was a worker, so, and I had a clean reputation.
Yeah.
So when I was ready to make that pivot,
Sure.
it was not a hard, you know, it wasn't hard for me to, you know, be in the realm of consideration.
Right.
Because I had, despite the union background and kind of battling a little bit with the management at Dulles at the time, but I was always, my reputation was a hard worker.
Right.
A pain in the butt, but a hard worker. So
it's a healthy balance of both.
And that, so for everyone, just, you know, if you're new, you don't have to know what you want to do 10 years down the road. You don't have to have a strategic map planned out. Just working hard, doing, you know, the best job you can day in and day out, being consistent. And that will enable you to pivot to really anywhere when you're ready for it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Last question.
I'm ready.
Is there anything for the current staff, the current trainers that we have here, that you'd like to tell them?
Sure. I would say to the current staff, as stewards at this academy, everything that we do, because I'm going to be a part of this team as well, everything that we do is a reflection on the academy itself, and how we conduct ourselves, the way we talk, the way we interact, the way we train is, it's so very important that we hold ourselves to the highest standards possible, because those trainees watch I remember just if someone, you know, I was observant as an academy trainee, and I would watch like a hawk to see
all the time,
you know, what the folks that have rank are doing.
Yeah.
So it's so vital that we act a certain way all the time, whether we're in the hallway or in the classroom. It's just there's
or
really
at the gym. I've had a couple come up to
Okay.
me at the gym, the local gym, not even the Fletsy gym. Always watching, but to your point, they're always paying attention.
and we lead by example, and that's something that
Yes.
It's not hard for me to have a very straightforward tone and zero tolerances, because I walk the walk. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy for me to set those standards because I will adhere to them as well.
Yeah. And I think I love what you said about walking the walk, right? Because that accountability, it starts with us, especially in these roles as leaders. And one of the things that I loved about my transition from Newark and coming down here was really seeing the quality of CDIs that we have here and knowing that they understood what our responsibility was, right? And what it is, and rightfully so, making sure that we are holding ourselves accountable and having those standards that we're expecting of the folks who are joining CVP. So I think that you are going to be in such a great company with like-minded staff. For me, it's been such an honor and a pleasure to serve here, and for you coming in. I'm so excited for you to be taking over in this acting role, and I trust that you will find it as rewarding. Again, bittersweet for me to be leaving, but it's super exciting again for you, and I'll be watching from afar all of the great things that's continuing to take place here at the FOA. I'll be looking for the podcast. So you cannot have Tena Talk because that's my name. And I told you guys from the beginning. So, I was telling you this, that I did not come up with the name, and I still feel very awkward saying it. But CMO told me to embrace the chaos and embrace the name. So I did so, but I think the biggest thing is to have a platform where we're able to engage with all of our stakeholders. And I use that word very intentionally because on an internal basis, especially here at the FOA, our stakeholders are all of our staff that works here and certainly all of the trainees that are joining the agency. And externally, all of the American people who expect us to do our job and make sure that we are training America's front line, but then also people who are interested in joining. And so that's an incredible responsibility to have. It's been such an honor and a pleasure to do it. And so, like I said, I'll be looking from afar. Thank you for joining us today. Congratulations.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah, and thank all of you for tuning in to the last episode of Tena Talk here at the FOA, but certainly not the last podcast that'll be filmed here at the FOA. Please stay tuned. There'll be new announcements for the new name of the show and the way how that's going to be going on. I know the team here has so many great ideas that they're currently putting into plan, and you can't see them because they're all behind the cameras and doing all of the magic from afar, but I can tell you it really is an incredible work that they do, and great work that they do to put these shows together, bring it to you, and really give you what you're expecting to see. So I am so humbled to have been a part of it. Thank you for bringing the visions. And if you see me looking off, it's because I'm making sure that I'm looking at the folks who bring the magic to play. But, again, from XD Thomas, acting XD Thomas, officially signing off here from the podcast at the FOA. It has been such an honor and a pleasure. Catch me wherever I go next time. Tune in for Tena Talk there or not, but most importantly, stay the course. Thank you for your efforts, and Tena Talk is out.